Hey, my name is Joel and welcome to my vlog. So for today's video, we are going to talk about the recommendations or my recommendations of the best, for me, the best sci-fi novels that I've read. So without further ado, let's start. The first book that I'm going to recommend for you guys this is quite a very surprising read for me. I did not expect that I will love this book. There's a mixed reviews for this one, which I was kind of hesitant to pick this one up. And then when I gave this one a chance, I fell in love with this book, and I am recommending this in probably one of the best sci-fi books that I've read in my entire life. The Diabolique by S.J. Kincaid. So I'm not really sure how to pronounce Kincaid, I don't know, sorry. But this one is a sci-fi set in the future, very, very far from now. It's happening in the outer space, somewhere in the galaxy where the Earth is already dead, and they try to set up an artificial planet, and there's a lot of robots. So basically, this is a heist, and not heist, but something to do with very political and character driven and not that plot driven. So if you love a sci-fi character driven book, then probably this one is for you. It's very surprising, and I fell in love with the characters, and I am planning to read the second book, which is The Empress. The second book that I have here for the second book that I'm going to recommend for you guys for the best sci-fi is probably my long-time favorite sci-fi novel. I read this back in my early years in college, and this is Parcells by Dan Wells. Dan Wells, where's Dan Wells? See this one. Dan Wells is the brother or the older brother of Robinson Wells, which I also am a fan of Robinson Wells. Dan Wells, this is actually a very underrated series. The second book is Fragments, and the third book is, I forgot the third book. Yeah, but the entire series, I'm going to recommend this as the entire series. Parcells is this is post-apocalyptic. It's somewhat a dystopian already, in which the Earth ended because there's this RM virus who killed almost 90% of the Earth's population, and there's only a certain percentage of humans who were immune to the virus, and they survived, and they tried to build the civilization again. And then the youngest human being in the Earth or in their sanctuary is actually 16 years old. The reason for that is every time a child is born, um, the RM virus attacks the system of the child, and then eventually after a few hours the child will die. So the story is all about the protagonist looking for a cure for the virus, and she set take into this adventure of looking for the cure, and then she met the Parcells, which are partial human, partial robot, and the story starts from there. Very, very plot driven, so I'd recommend it. The next one is kind of famous, and this is The Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is not a young adult, actually. I was surprised that this is already an adult science fiction. I was expecting this is a young adult because of the length. But this is also a character driven and plot driven at the same time. This reminds me of Hunger Games, because there's a plot here in the book which is similar to Hunger Games, but this is very different from Hunger Games in a lot of levels. This is a more mature approach. That's why it's an adult sci-fi. This is very brutal and bloody. So if you don't like reading books, there's will be a lot of blood and what you call this one, brutality and killings and murder. Then this you might avoid. You have to avoid this one. So there's a lot of very good reviews for this one. This is a trilogy. The second one is a Golden Sun, which I have it right now. I haven't read the second one pa. And then there is the Midnight Sun, I think. Golden Sun, Midnight Star, the third one. So if you want an action-packed, character-driven and plot-driven book at the same time, then this one is for you. The next book that I'm going to recommend in my best sci-fi books that I've read so far is the Sight and Thunderhead books. This is by Neil Shusterman, one of my go-to or auto-buy authors. Sight and is the first book of the series or trilogy, and Thunderhead is the second book of the trilogy. And the last book is not yet out. It will be released early 2019, which is I'm very excited. Sight and Thunderhead might be a very polarizing book. You will love it and you will really hate it. So just a warning. So a lot of people really love it, but a lot of people really hate it. This is not a character-driven book, but it's a plot-driven book. Talks about the future where the world humans are not dying anymore, and because of this very advanced scientific discovery, so every time a human dies, she can restart. I don't know if it's the term in the book, I forgot. You can restart, so they can go back again to the age of the day that they're going to choose. So if you're going to die by the age of 69 or 70, and then you can restart back to 21, and then they're kind of very immortal. And if you have an accident, a part of the medical team can save you, and then they can revive you in the hospital. That's why the site was invented or created to control the population. So site are basically it is a what do you call this one? A profession in which they can kill human beings. They have their own methods on how to choose who to choose to kill. So this is an awesome read. So a lot of unexpected plots and plot twists, which really took my attention. And I can say, if you don't really like this first one, I want you to give the second one a try, the Thunderhead, because this is 10 times better than this one, and probably one of the best reads one of the best books I've read this year. The next book that I'm going to read is probably also a very famous book. This was published years ago, and this is Emily St. John Mandel Station 11. This is the UK version that I have. I got this from Big Bad Wolf, Cebu. Thank you so much, Big Bad Wolf. I don't know how to really describe this book, but this is not just, it is, I don't know, this is very hunting, and this reminds me of a lot of stories that I've encountered in my childhood. This is a multi-perspective book, so if you don't like books, if you don't like reading books with a lot of perspectives, then this might turn you off. So again, this is a very polarizing book, but I fell in love with this book. Even after days that I finished reading this book, I can't stop thinking about the things that happened in this book, especially the ending. I don't know, this really talks about life itself. This is about a post-apocalyptic, in where the earth ended again because there's the flu virus who almost wiped the entire human beings in earth, and then the survivors tries to rebuild civilization. And then the protagonist is part of this circus which travels all around the US or certain towns to entertain people and to let them forget about the bad things that is happening currently in the world. And things started there, and really amazing. You need to read this one. Second to the last book that I'm going to recommend is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is probably one of the best books I've read in my entire life. I read this last year, and I cannot stop talking about this one. I've been pushing this one to all my friends, and all of them who've read this also love this one. The movie was actually quite disappointing, to be honest. The movie itself is not all of the things that happened in the book was was there in the movie. So I want you to give this one a shot. If you don't like the movie, please read this one. This is 20 times or 100 times better than the movie. This is very plot driven. I also fell in love with the characters. This really made me embrace and love sci fiction, and the fact that the pop culture, the 80s pop culture, was in also a big recipe for the story is amazing. And I am very excited to read more of stories, or more books like. And the last book that I'm going to recommend for my sci-fi recommendations, or the best sci-fi novels that I've read in my entire life, is just the most recent read. My most recent read. I just finished this book last week, and I cannot stop thinking about it. That's why this is the inspiration why I made this video, because I really want to recommend this one for you. And this is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. This is quite a very interesting book. The first reason why you need to read this is the winner of the Nebula Awards 2016. This is the first book of the trilogy. The second book of the trilogy is, let me see, where's that one? The Obelisk Gate. The second book of the trilogy, The Obelisk Gate, won the Nebula Awards 2017. And guess what? The third book of the trilogy, the final book, the Stone Sky, won the Nebula Awards for 2018. So 2016, Nebula Awards goes to the book 1. 2017, Nebula Awards for the book goes to the book 2. And for 3 straight years, N.K. Jemisin won as the Stone Sky won again the Nebula Awards for 2018. If you're asking what is Nebula Awards, Nebula Awards is actually an organization which recognizes the best sci-fi novels in the world. It's like the Oscar of sci-fi books. So if that does not inspire or intrigue you, or motivate you to read this trilogy, then I don't know what will. But this is very, very good. Let me see, very engrossing. You will be This is a character driven and also a plot driven book. This is very unique. The story is nothing that you have heard before. This is about a post-apocalyptic. It happens in this one big continent where the Earth in the future does not have the continents we have right now. So there's one big continent called the Still, and then what happens here is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy. So there's also a fantasy element here, not just a pure sci-fi. That makes it more makes this one even more amazing. Thank you so much for watching my video. So these are my book recommendations, probably the best sci-fi books that I've read in my entire life. Thank you for watching, and see you again next video. Thank you. Bye bye.